and urban fiction. Just a quick conversation about urban fiction. Some say it stereotypes, some says it generates a new readership, and both may be true. Impact of urban fiction on the conversation about African American books. Any comments? Good, bad, indifferent?
I have a lot of mixed feelings on it because of my background, coming from projects and all that, and poor background. And I always think that whether it's books or music relating to a negative situation, meaning the degradation of ourselves, self-demeaning of ourselves through pictures or words or music, and thrown at our community. Usually we start, as you began the conversation, with an independent mind, and usually the most negative, which was why when we got to deal with Wiley, when we looked and saw, well, they published self-help books also and positive books, but a lot of corporations, whether it's in the music business or the book business, will jump on that and flood our communities with that negative value of ourselves. And by doing that, it's a demeaning situation. It becomes an overwrought overabundance, and certainly a situation where our children are impacted totally, whether it's by negative videos on television or negative books they see people reading, or in the stores and they look at the covers, and pimpdom is good, and being a gangster is just wonderful, and being a thug is just the greatest thing in the world, and we can go to jail too, and that's a great place, and jail is wonderful, and we got 2.5 million African American men and women in jail, and we got 5 million grandmothers taking care of grandchildren becoming the parent. We got 8 million single parents, and our communities are disheveled in the poorer communities where I come from, and so I'm always looking at that as not a great situation. And as far as saying, well, at least we're reading, or at least we're listening to music, which is, as we stated when we first began, is a fallacy. We've always read, and we've always read great literature. We've had great authors, Richard Wright and on up and down, and great literature to read. So it's not, I think it's just a way of making money and empowerment, and it's like selling a crack dealer on the street to me. His goal is not to, because he's poor, actually he becomes a powerful fixture in his community once he's enslaved and addicted everybody and made everybody a zombie. So you got people now just reading it because it's the thing to read, and it's not a good or bad thing. It's a negative thing.
I sort of disagree. With children's book, if I may, with children's books and Just Us books, our mission is to really provide positive images. And I believe in the First Amendment and free speech, and I believe that everyone has a right to tell their own story. I just think that the impact that some of the street lit and urban fiction has on teenagers and then trickling down to younger kids is negative, and it's not good, because it makes for a situation where there are not options. Our children come from all kinds of backgrounds. I came from a background in Portsmouth, Virginia, middle class. My father sold insurance. My mother was a teacher in the public school. The street life was something that I was not familiar with. I knew, life, and thought everybody lived like they lived in Ebony magazine, with furniture and white rugs and whatever on the floor. But it's all about options for children, and I think to provide a safe haven, a place where each one teaches one, where a parent is the first teacher, where you can catch a parent or an adult reading something good to their child. I think our kids need to see much more of that, and we have to remind ourselves that we are more than what the media may be pushing at this time. So again, First Amendment is fine, but I think it has had a negative impact on on children in particular.
Cheryl, that is what I said.
I'm agreeing.
You're agreeing with me.
All right. You said it real good. All right.
Anything that, you know, a child becomes an adult. I mean, we were once children, so,
Right, yeah.
you know, and what we see as a child, it impacts our, you know, education, our purpose in life, where we're going, how we grow, and how we're stymied at that moment in time. So it is a negative situation.
Right, okay.
So who would like to be the first question, the first
Wait a
person?
minute, I'm sorry. I was trying to be nice. I disagree with them.
By all means.
I disagree.
I knew Paul was waiting.
I was trying to let it go. See, I think one of the errors that we make, one of the large errors that we make is by looking at things and just lumping everything together. I think anytime we do something like that, we're just prone to error, and we set ourselves up for error. So your question is a question about street lit. Well, I mean, in its very nature, it can't all be bad. It can't all be bad. You can't tell me that people would sit down and write and everything they write is just bad. Now, some of the writing is poor. I agree. I mean, really, really poor. And it's not the literature that I prefer. But unlike Tony, who came to literature, as he says, like with Richard Wright, I came to literature reading other stuff. I read dirty magazines. I mean, those are favorites. I read comic books, you know. I mean, I read all those kinds of things. And it wasn't until I was probably about 17 or 18 years old that I crossed James Baldwin. And then the pursuit continued on. But I read trash. I read all kinds of trash first. And they gave me a basis so that when I did cross Baldwin, so when I did cross Richard Wright, I could make a distinction. That this is something that's different. This is something that appeals to me. One of the things that I would criticize, and I'm sorry that Adrienne Ingram isn't here, but Adrienne Ingram gave me a lesson years ago when we did the Walter Mosley book, and she said this. She said, you know, you black publishers are doing a great job getting the books out, and they're serious books and all like that, but y'all don't know what fun books are. And so I said, what are you talking about? What's a fun book? She said, that's my point. That's my point. We publish serious books. Everybody up here, Wade and Cheryl publish children's books, and they access people as they should on a lower level. The brother who is in jail is going to have a hard time, even though many of our readers are in jail and they read our books, but many of them don't understand, but they do understand Iceberg Slim. They do understand Relentless Aaron. They do understand some other things, and I'm all in favor of them having that access to the literature. Last point on this. You have to understand that publishing goes through phases. 10 years ago, 15 years ago, it was black nationalist literature. So literally anybody who wrote black nationalist literature, whether it was good, bad, or not, if it was anything that said black and had red, black, and green on it, you sell it. Okay, it was one of those things. Before that, it was something else, and before that, it was something else, and after that, it'll be something else. And the same is true of what we would call urban literature now. The sales are, as I talk to booksellers, the sales have gone south on this literature. So it's not something we should condemn. I think we need to celebrate and be thankful for the people that we have brought along as readers, and hopefully they'll continue their reading and be able to distinguish and make good choices as they develop. I heard people laugh when I said I read dirty literature. That means I got friends in the audience. Y'all know dirty literature. Thank y'all.
So who